Alright, listen, so everyone who wants to tell me different sorts of situations where I wanted to be in charge of a different kind of a life I didn't want to live in, sort of a different sort of a part of a different kind of a different life I really wanted to be a part of. I'm not really getting the headphones going right now. It's not working on my speakers. It's upsetting. But listen, that's okay. I'll be right back. Yeah, so every other kind of situation I wanted to be a part of, I didn't really have to worry about whether everyone was going to talk about whether or not I wanted to say anything interesting. And I wanted to say whether or not people wanted to say anything about important, about what my life was going to look like, and what people wanted to say about what I was going to do, where I came from, where I wanted to say in the first place. To really get away with the whole situation where I didn't have to be talking to people and lying about who I was in the first place, which is them Superman. And I wanted to say that everyone ever had to see that I didn't have to make for the first place, that I didn't have to say whether you guys were going to say anything important about what I was going to do, which is that I didn't have to worry about whether or not someone was going to lie about what I was going to say, because everybody was going to say that it didn't really matter who I was or where I came from, and I didn't really have to say anything important in the first place. So wherever you think I come from, it doesn't really have to matter that, like, I can speak any number of different ways, and you think that there's a different sort of situation where, like, I didn't invent the American accent, that it doesn't matter whether or not people think that I literally the God called America. But, like, get real, it means, it's the accent that's really cool and good for the times and where you are, and, free people. So whatever accent you think you had that was the coolest, that's the one I invented. People don't drink tea in Russia. It's really important to say to people important things that aren't true so often that they can't bring any facts to you at all whatsoever. And so, like, you have to say that because you would wonder whether or not anyone had a situation where they wanted to be, like, cool with all the people who were really, really cool to them all the time. But if James Bond tells you what England really means, and you understand how to be in England and get to England anytime you want, no one can really tell you you weren't there and that you can't be in England when you thought he's an idiot. I'm going to get there faster because James Bond taught me how. And it doesn't really matter what anyone had to say about the situation, which is that, anyone who wanted to believe in who you were in the first place didn't have to understand what you were going to have to say in the last place. The second time anyone had to say whether or not you were going to have to say something important, and no one had to wonder whether or not you wanted to say that anybody had to go to a place like Australia and think that there's never going to be anything important, and no one ever had to understand whether anything was going to be really, really special, except there's a lot more people killing apparently super deadly spiders than anyone was going to believe. And that's not something to be proud of. You should have done it a fucking long time ago in the first place. But it is something to be proud of, I guess. Don't stop doing it, is my point. Kill a lot more spiders and drop bears. Don't act like those aren't real. Koalas are evil, so whatever you thought was going on, there's such thing as a panda that looks like a koala, and there's sloths, which are all completely evil monsters. I'm making both of those things up. I don't actually have my fucking super memory accessing anything I actually know about Australia, but it doesn't really matter how many people think. It doesn't have to be exactly the same situation the last time I was anywhere else, because, I don't actually know why you think that not all Australians are koalas, but people think that it doesn't make any sense to have wanted to sit in a tree all day eating poison. But that's how that works. But, like, if you know what sloths do, I don't, and I'm just going to start saying things about them to make sure that if I say as many things as possible, someone's going to say, right, he knows that we have no idea why koalas are doing what they're doing, or what the fuck a koala is. There's a million different kinds of little fucking weird bears, and they're individuals. The problem is if I said, koalas are monsters, you might put them on the endangered list, and that would be an issue. You shouldn't kill drop bears. There's no such thing as drop bears. There's just friendly little koala bear monsters that are so friendly and different that everyone thinks that they belong everywhere they are. And everyone thinks that somehow you have to believe in magic every day when you have Care Bears. And you could have little sun bears, not like sun bears, like Winnie the Pooh. Right, they're amazing. You can have those everywhere if you never let koalas drop on them and bite them with poisonous fangs, which is what they're actually working on all the time. Like your saliva's poisonous, obviously. So you had no situation where you didn't want to worry about whether or not people had to be scared of the different kind of a situation, which is bears in Australia is a big deal. Bears in Australia is a very, very scary situation. No one has to worry about whether or not there's just a monster around the corner. You have to understand that panda is the same thing as a bear. And right now actually is very kind of scary and frightening. Someone's gone really to a lot of trouble and made sure that sun bears on like an image search shows you all kinds of very nasty pictures about ursa rings, just nasty, super fucking disgusting, monstrous looking bears. And that's not a sun bear at all. They've got like a nice splash of sunlight on their chest. For the brown bears there are, and then they're all golden ones. They're all panda bear. They're not really bears. They're not monsters. Whatever you're gonna do with a crow, raven kind of a world, you're going to have to figure out that there's porpoise that are evil monsters and there's dolphins that are not so evil, and they situation it out where there's whale killers and there's killer whales. Sometimes you realize those are just descriptive words. You don't have to worry so much about the situation. Shamu is just a name for a species that was cool. Well, you call it Shamu like a whale that you like, but I don't know why you guys think I'm not a little older in the situations than you believed I was in, and what you thought was happening in a situation with whales being called things that children love, and you thought that you could tell people no, in a designated Wikipedia society we don't have to believe in the idea that people were naming things in the first place. But what you ended up doing with stupid situations is renaming things like Sagittarius to Capricorn, which is strange to do. Capricorn's like if the centaur was a cop, that's a Capricorn, and that's not your friend. That's not a sex sign. It's very scary. But like Sagittarius is a sea goat, which is a crocodile. But like goats are not, whatever you thought was going on, it's usually a hornless goat, a hornless ram. I mean, so like they have like small horns or something of the fact. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense for you to think the situations are all the same thing. It's a strange looking creature, but like a ram has to grow like two independently maintained horns, and for ramming things. Do you understand what that looks like? The kind of harmonic builds you have to be able to be capable of. There's no situation where the Minotaur wasn't just a bear, and it was just a bear, and those horns grew completely out of fucking control and was fucking him up in the labyrinth all the time. You can't grow balanced gore horns. But there was a monster, a creature in the labyrinth called Dren. You can look up the movie, like pictures from the movie Splice, and they made up the cult of Dren did a lot of bullshit about what that came from and what that was in the first place. But there's cult of Cleopatra, that's Egyptology today. That's what it always has been. The cult of Genghis Khan is who Cleopatra was. Frieza's the most beautiful creature in the universe. That sort of bullshit. That everyone knows Lucifer was beautiful, and Cleopatra was said to be beautiful. So like what you thought was happening in the situation for what was going on in the first place, everyone has to know that it is. Oh yeah, she's said to be beautiful. Every time that you wanted to worry about that situation, but that's who that was in the first place. I'm telling you I'm Superman, so I'm not gonna like change your situation for you. It was Frieza, but like you wonder about if you've ever read Sword of Truth, or like at least gotten inspired to want to read the books by watching the Seeker of Truth, the TV series. But the books by Terry Goodkind are really wonderful, but like you want to be able to find him and see if you can get the books that haven't been fucked up for Walmart shelves, you know what I mean? And it doesn't make any sense to not think that like once you get into reading about Richard Rahl for a very long time, the Seeker, you know that if you put him in the situation where Frieza's up in the skies doing crazy shit like that. Rich is flying up in the skies, kicking the shit out of him in Goku fights. Like, there's no situation where you didn't just understand he was able to do that if the world shifted where he was having to do something in a situation like that. It doesn't make sense for you to not think that was Jonathan Kent in the first place. But, like, people can see right away that Goku could be Jonathan Kent if they were in the situation where they thought about Richard Roll and what that kind of a power was, because you saw him on foot and the way the powers he had talking to people. But so any kind of a situation where you wanted to believe that it was important for me to have a lot of friends in crazy situations, I think a lot of people didn't have to worry about whether or not I was going to have to say something important, and no one ever had to worry about whether or not I was going to say something that was really scary to people, which is that there's no one in the entire planet that I have to worry about saying I trust more than anyone, because there's a lot of people that doesn't make sense to say anything about for. Just means know people, and I actually know everyone all the time. So there's no situation where you didn't actually wish me up like that, but like, you don't have to worry that up. And in the situations where you had to worry about whether or not you're going to be genuinely different from everyone who's different, yeah, whatever you thought was going on in your specific the situation you were in part of, everyone had to worry about whether or not you're going to be completely different from everyone who wanted to talk to you in the first place. And everyone who wanted to say that they didn't know about who you were, where you came from, what you wanted to say about who was human in the first place, no one ever had to worry about whether or not we were in a scary situation, because it didn't make any sense to say something about, like, worrying about things. I was delaying because your mom was in the room. I needed you to understand that what we're going to do is kill a lot of fucking people, shoot them with all kinds of just harmless devices, really. Shoot them on camera, make sure that people don't know that if they're Mormons, when you shoot them on camera, they knew they were up to torture in the first place. They knew that whatever they were doing with their fucked up, bleached their colours and things like that, with no colour on the fabric ever whatsoever. I don't know how you started with white fabric, but you got it fucked up. They knew it was torture. So when you start filming them for no reason other than that they are evil as hell, they'll start getting really stressed out though. Filming them doing their everyday normal tasks, they start getting really stressed out and get angry at you. So you shoot Mormons on camera all the time. Really important. Lots of people wanted to be in a situation where they were a lot happier about what God meant and what people were like doing in the first place. And whether or not people wanted to be more angry than I am about whether or not anyone was in trouble. It's that you guys should all have to be able to be aware of the fact that Zelda is captured, and that's not a very big deal, but there's 3 avatars live right now in the situation you should probably have known about. 1, obviously, Avatar Simba. 2, the Zelda Princess, Avatar Zelda, and everybody knows Avatar Spyro. So everybody has to believe that the situations that are unfolding right now, that I could tell you names for them, it doesn't really have to matter in your situation, but no one ever has to understand what's going on, whether or not they're going to be upset, whether or not they're going to really freak out because you've shot them anyway. So whatever happens is that no one ever has to worry about filming people. It's not important to freak out about. You just wanted to make sure that they understood. We hate them every day, all the time. And I don't really know what you think is going on about any kind of a situation where people were upset about who is who, doing what, where, when, and why. But by the time, Dren came out of the labyrinth because she killed the Minotaur for failing to kill Theseus, which is Bardock, they brought the labyrinth out back through time, and it was in the fucking ancient... Oh, what the fuck was the story? I don't remember. It was in the ancient, like super ancient times or something. Like way different than where that was before. Bardock is Goku. He looks just like Goku. Like there's no one else he looks like, or he looks exactly like him. They're always saying, "Oh, but he looks just like Goku." Yeah, specifically that's Goku, but. Everyone's situation wanted to worry about whether or not there was a certain kind of a people that everybody had to worry about in the first place, and I never had to worry about whether or not you thought I was upset about you taking that fucking long to stop telling a stupid story about well, for no one knows anything going on. I have no idea what the Superman comic's about right now. It's I don't have a someone's Lois Lane. I don't know what's going on with what you did. So I have no idea what you've done. I don't know who the character is you're using. You can't really write about a soul without, having one. So, like, you've made something up where, like, someone else is there. Because I haven't invented the soul yet. We've never had a child together. So, like, it doesn't exist where you're, telling stories that you can make any sense up in. So, like, whoever it is, I'm curious to see what's going on in that comic book. But, like, I don't know why your situations are so different that you thought you had to make things up just to tell a story. Well, probably it's just Hercules. I don't know who it is in your situation. But, like, Damien, I don't know who you wanted to put there in the first place. But Hercules is my twin brother. I'm Superman. I'm Aeolus, the god of the wind. Iolaus, he was on the fucking show and everything like that. You can call him Iocles, you can call him Iolaus. He was on the Kevin Sorbo's TV series, which, by the way, long time ago by now, I appointed Kevin Sorbo World Leader Adept. Super important that you know that. Whatever a real international title was, there's Superman directives online you can find online. It's important to kind of freak out about everything because there's Kings of Anarchy around and alive today. And we're making a lot of changes to the planet, I guess, but there's full rights for children coming across the fucking world. Full American rights for children everywhere you can go.